There's more questions than answers. What's going on with Rashee Rice today on Locked On Chiefs?
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. It is the Monday after. We're brought to you by GameTime today. Download the GameTime app, create your account, and use our code LOCKEDONNFL. You're going to get $20 off of your first purchase. A lot to cover here. Some good things, some very bad things, and what does it mean going forward? Strategies have to change. That's coming up today. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, as well as your guy over at NFL33.com and RGR Football. This is my guy, Chris Clark, over at KC Chiefs Corner. You can get all of our content there all the time. Thanks for making us your first listen. Check out another Locked On show coming up next because there's lots to go over. You can like, sub, and hit the bell here on YouTube. Join us on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get a free show. You can get us 5 days a week. And if you want that much more, go get on the text line at 816-357-8781 and get all the information. What do they change going forward? A little bit different week. We're not going to see them till later in the practice schedule. That's probably a good thing for a lot of guys. That's coming up later in the show. What is the good, the bad, and the ugly? Who performed and who didn't? Who's got to step that up? That's coming up in the next segment, but we start really the biggest question in Chiefs Kingdom right now. We did not get a significant update from Andy Reid, but this afternoon we got a little bit more information. We don't know anything about the status of Rashee Rice, but it looks like it's at least being explored, right?
Yeah, Josina Anderson just came out and stated that he is trying to get a second opinion, trying to figure out what exactly he wants to do. Surgery and timetables have been discussed. But that's all we have right now. It's possible that this is, and I would almost say probable that this is season ending, but we don't know. So really kind of hard to say. Would hope that I'm wrong on that, but with everything that we saw yesterday, it sure seemed like it would be something that would probably end the season. But the thought process that he is actually still trying to get a second opinion and trying to see what is possible for him going forward is maybe slightly encouraging, I guess.
Yeah, I have to agree because normally you're going to do a drawer test on an ACL or a suspected ACL. You're going to get that answer on the sideline. Now, he looked distraught. Let's give him that, but I didn't get to see the test. It wasn't caught by a camera that I'm aware of. And honestly, if nothing else, after the plane ride home, you'd probably have a really good idea. So that tells me that it's not clear cut or they wouldn't be seeking a second opinion. Now, sometimes you can get some muscle contraction that kind of tightens things up and doesn't give you the greatest read at the first go. But this could be anything from a full ACL tear to some partials, and maybe that's why you want a second opinion, more imagery, like to determine what you could do surgically, how you would go about that. Or maybe it's something that the ACL is mostly good. Maybe you got a strain and you got some other ligament damage, or you got meniscus or those kind of things.
Was there a hyperextension of some sort? I mean, the way his knee bent, that is exactly what it looks like. And I'm not trying to say I'm a doctor, so please don't take it that way. But it's some kind of hyperextension look like happened. And whether or not there's additional ligament damage is really going to be the big question. With the hyperextension, I mean, who knows? That makes a lot of sense. Why he couldn't put any weight on it for an hyperextension. That's one of those things where you're not going to be able to put any weight on it. So we'll see. Lots of different questions when it comes to Rashee Rice. Unfortunately, do not have the information. But at the same time, all the people that would be in the know have really kind of stayed away from the story and really not said much. And to me, that tells you that it's not out there yet. Like, I understand we just said Josina Anderson is talking about it and he's trying to get a second opinion, but you know, Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport and those guys, Mike Garafolo, usually have some kind of idea as to what's going on. And they get information from the inside, and they don't seem to have it right now. So to me, that tells me that it's not fully known what's going on, and it's being, one, kept pretty close to the vest, and two, maybe there is some more testing that they need to do, and maybe they weren't able to get a clear vision of it. So that's going to be a big question as to what they're going to be able to do. The big question that I think everybody has to have is, what are they going to do in his stead? We don't know what's going to happen with Rashee Rice. We're not going to know that probably. We may not know that until Thursday when Andy Reid comes out and actually talks to the media, because there's not going to be practice tomorrow. They're off because they don't have a game till Monday night. So our schedule is also going to be a little bit different. I don't think we'll have our preview for you on Friday. It will be on Monday. So we'll have something a little bit different for you on Friday. But is this a week is this, something that they may be looking at trying to make a move? A lot of people have been throwing out names. Amari Cooper. There's one that plays tonight where people have been throwing out his name, and DeAndre Hopkins. Christian Kirk has been thrown out there. Devontae Adams. Hard to see that him being moved in the division. And money is an issue when it comes to Adams and specifically Christian Kirk. So that's going to be something that they would have to be figured out as well. But I think the Titans probably are going to move to 0-4 tonight, and it would make a lot of sense for them to try to move on from Hopkins at this point.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of options out there, and that kind of goes back to why we haven't heard more. And for the record, folks, for those of you who don't know us very well, I'm not a physician either, but I am a trained exercise physiologist, strength conditioning coach, background in athletic training, a number of other medical related fields when it comes to sports. So that's why I'll give you my initial takes, but don't take that as any kind of solid advice, just from experience and what I see. But the other thing about that is taking the time to make sure you have your diagnosis right before you try to do a surgical thing or something like that. It also allows you that time right now today to be on the phone if you're Brett Veach trying to look at these kind of trades. Andy was asked about trades today and about the transition to incorporating them into a team when it's not training camp and you don't have oodles of time. You have game week basically. He deferred his answer pretty well by saying, hey, it depends on the guy. And that basically means that you want somebody that has experience in this league and has probably run multiple offenses or one that looks very much like your own so they can come in and actually have an impact. And I think that narrows that list down quite a bit. I don't know that D-Hop has much to offer, to tell you the truth. And the other guys are honestly salary expensive at this point.
Amari Cooper isn't. He's cheap. His salary for the year is $1.2 million. So you could do that. Darius Slayton's another name that I've seen thrown out there, which kind of makes sense a little bit because he's been in a system similar to Kansas City with Brian Dable's system. So I think that they're for Kafka being the OC, I think that there would be some similarities there. But, you look at this and it's just a question of what are you going to do at the wide receiver position going forward? Kansas City, the past couple of years, have made moves. 2 years ago, they went and got Kadarius Toney. Maybe there's a possibility they could bring him back. He's on the Browns practice squad right now. I know a lot of people would hate that, but it's possible. And they went and got Mecole Hardman last year, but Mecole Hardman hasn't had any real run in this offense. So if you're going to go out and get a guy, you need to get somebody that you think can come in and contribute. And right now, I don't really know that there's a great guy out there. And to your point, yes, they have to be able to come in, and yes, they have to be able to know the system. I would trust any veteran that's been out there that's been playing 6, 7, 8 years to be able to come in and read offense. And they're not going to be somebody that can contribute right away. But if they can get to starting to contribute by week 11 when they start playing the Bills and then starting to get really contributing by the time the playoffs come around, that's all you really need. You're going to be able to – you're going to struggle the next couple of weeks regardless of who you bring in because players aren't plug and play like – a lot of people want to think they are, and you're not going to be able to get into the offensive scheme. You're not going to be able to understand, all the assignments of the wide receivers, and Reed can slow it down to some extent, but you're going to lose a lot of variability in your offense if you do that too much. So I do think that there are options out there. I think that they're going to explore them, and I would not be surprised if they make a move. And quite honestly, if they're going to make a move, I think that they need to be making it now because, as you said, the fact that they cannot get somebody into this offense immediately and get them going and get them up and ready to go for, the Saints game or even the 49ers game, although you'd have a bye week in between, means that the sooner you get them in, the sooner that they can actually add value to your team and the sooner that they can be helpful and try to help you get wins. I do think that bringing in Juju earlier this offseason is going to be a huge blessing in disguise as the season goes on.
Yeah, I think he can fill a specific role, and I thought he did pretty well yesterday. So was he amongst the good? The good, the bad, and the ugly is coming up next. Hey there, NFL fans. You can get started right now with a big return with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Takes the life out of your middle there, and so when you have that hunch in the middle of a ball game or in the middle of the day on a packed Sunday with a full slate, you can check the latest stats, check out the live play-by-play, and get that so deep into the game that you can make your decisions and go on the same page to place your bets. Makes life super simple. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. It's over at FanDuel. there's a lot of options there, especially when Patrick's throwing interceptions early or we're running the ball really good. You never know what's going to happen. But if you have a gut feeling, check it out at FanDuel.com. You hope that there's more good than bad, and certainly more than ugly. This has been an ugly win season to this point. Some performances stand out more than others, and some leave a little bit to be desired. And I want to start on the good side. And it's, I think, a good performance. I wouldn't say it was an excellent performance, but what I really liked about what Jalen Watson did was he was out there for a full slate next to Trent McDuffie, and he did his job. Got targeted 5 times, 0 completions, and he played every pass coverage snap. That's what I'm looking for. So I don't know if he's CB2 officially, but yesterday he certainly was.
I think Watson's CB2. I don't think there's much of a question at this point. I think Nazee's going to be CB3 for the foreseeable future, and you have Joshua Williams, who's going to be a special teams guy for you and can come in and play if you absolutely need him with injuries. Hopefully we don't see that on the Chiefs defensive side of the ball like we've seen it on the offensive side. Yeah, absolutely. So at this point, I think that it's, that is Jalen Watson's job, and I'm encouraged by that because he has shown flashes. Not going to lie, really kind of disappointed he didn't get that pick yesterday because it hit him right in the hands, but if he could catch well, he'd be a wide receiver. So,
which is funny because he's actually made some pretty good interceptions. He didn't have it that easy. So, right. Sometimes some focus there is going to be an issue, but hopefully he continues to pick it up because having someone emerge at this point, and Spags talked about this just last week about not having that number 2 that is really taken the saddle. If he can do that and be the counterpart to Trent McDuffie, I think that helps. Going forward, the bad was pretty much the whole offensive line. I will say this, though. I do feel like in the run game, it was a marked difference, especially when you're changing backs and still getting a pretty good average there, getting a decent push. I felt like overall as a unit, the O-line played better than they did as individuals, specifically in the run game.
Yeah, in the run game, I thought they were good. I think that's something that's going to need to get – I don't know how they're going to clean it up, but it's something they need to get figured out, and hopefully they can get it figured out coming up after the bye week because they're going to be faced against a San Francisco team that is going to be getting after the quarterback, and that's definitely something they're going to need to have figured out for that game. The Saints' pass rush is okay, but I don't think it's near as good as what San Francisco's is. So they have another week to kind of work on things and get in the right, frame of mind and frame of reference, I guess. Joe Thuney, I think, has struggled this year, and I don't know how you're going to get past that. Obviously, I think that him not having training camp is really something that's hurt him, and I get it. So you hope that he can maybe get it figured out as he continues to get strength back, and at least he has this technique, which is top notch. So I think that could help. Wanya Morris, we'll see how that ends up going, but there was some really bad plays, and I do see why, to some extent, at least Mahomes seems to be struggling with, trusting the pocket, because there are definitely certain times where you watch the pocket just completely collapse around him.
I want to think that the Joe Thuney's issues are just due to the absence. So hopefully they can get that sorted and moved forward. I'm going to stick with that opinion until proven wrong, but knock on wood. The thing that on the other side of the ball that I think I'm still a little bit concerned about, it was Chris Jones and a bunch of dudes. You got a couple of pressures from George Karlaftis, I think 3. You got 3 from Felix Anudike-Uzomah. So on the good side, good for him. On the bad, nobody else really stepping up and making a huge impact. And on the ugly is we still don't know what this rotation is going to be. How hurt is Mike Dana? Cam Thomas got 3 snaps, only 1 pass rush snap. So still a work in progress there. When does this come around, and when do you get somebody else that can help solidify a game that doesn't have to be named Chris Jones?
Yeah, and Jones, for his credit, I think had a 30% win rate. Pass rush pressure rate. That's pretty good for anybody. So a win rate of 50%. I think that you got to feel pretty good about where he was. But you're right. I mean, the big question right now, and this is this is what really stings for Kansas City, because to me, the move always seemed to be that you want to go out and try to get into the defensive end, because it just didn't look like they were going to have enough pass rush this year. And it still doesn't look like they're going to go out and they're going to have enough pass rush this year. But right now, their biggest need is wide receiver, and it's not even close. And so if you can't make a move at defensive end, you've got to figure out a way to get more pressure. And I'm not sure that they have the ability to do that without blitzing a lot. And that's going to be a problem when you start getting to playing some other teams, namely a team like maybe San Francisco or Buffalo later in the season. I will say this, I feel pretty comfortable knowing that Spags knows Derek Carr pretty well, how this next game is going to go from a defensive perspective. Yes, I know it's a different offense, different team in New Orleans and all that. I get that, but he does have a pretty good idea of what he can do against Derek Carr. He knows, his strengths and his weaknesses. So I do feel good about that. But they don't have a pass rush, and I don't know what's happened to George Karlaftis this season, but he has not been the same player he was last year, and he's taken a step back.
Maybe a touch. I think he's getting more attention as part of the problem, because now they know it's Chris and him, and that's about it. But you're right. He does need to raise his level, and if they can get a little more interior pressure, Turk actually had a 25% win rate yesterday. So if Deshaun Wharton can up that a bit, that helps draw some of that attention. Maybe that's what they need to do next. We're going to go over what the changes in strategy on both sides of the ball should be for this next week, coming up next. Getting your tickets to Arrowhead just got easier. Whether you're looking for that week 1 against the Ravens, week 2 against the Bengals, or even week 5 when they come back in October for the New Orleans Saints, they have a new feature at GameTime called GameTime Picks, and it takes all the guesswork out of getting your tickets. It makes it easier to filter out the fluff and get the incredible deals on seats that you don't want to waste time searching for through those thousands of tickets. Get GameTime Picks. The curation makes it easy to get all the sports, concerts, comedy, and theater, anything that you're looking for. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create your account, and use our code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create the account, use our code LOCKEDONNFL, and you'll get $20 off of your first ticket purchase at GameTime. It's last-minute tickets. It is lowest prices, and it's always guaranteed. Make sure you check out Locked On NFL. It is now a double dose for you twice a day with our guys Tyler and Tony. Get subscribed over there and check out another Locked On show for your next one. Hit KC Chiefs Corner right now and go get that Substack sorted out so that you get all the information Chris is putting out, and join me on NFL 33 and RGR Football. There is shifts that have to be made every year. It's adaptations, whether it's halftime adjustments or whether you're shifting through personnel issues like the Chiefs are right now. And I think we've seen on the defensive side of the ball, Spags have to go to some compensations early to try to make up for some of this. On the offensive side of the ball, obviously, it's all been injury related. And coming back to the wide receiver group right now, changes in strategy, I think, are going to be optimal right now, because no matter who you get, if you were able to pull off a trade even this week, you're still talking about a ramp-up time. To learn the playbook, to understand where Patrick likes things to be run, how it likes he likes people coming out of breaks. And I do think that's an evolving thing for a lot of guys that are already on the roster. So what do you do in the meantime? I think they're going to rely a little bit more on Justin Watson. Andy Reid had nice things to say about Sky Moore today. I think that was a little bit unjustified, but Andy's going to be Andy. I think they need to use Mecole Hardman a little bit more here and rely on guys that have been in the situation before, and Watson and Hardman maybe a little bit more than Sky Moore, who he's been here, but we all know that it's an up and down prospect. That's how I would change the personnel packages in the pass game. What would you do?
I think you have to look at maybe going more 12 personnel or 13 personnel. Switch it up. Use what is one of your strengths. I think the tight end is one of their strengths. I think that's one of the positions that they can look at and say, okay, well, we have the ability to run 12 personnel a lot with Noah Gray and Travis Kelce and take advantage of mismatches there. I think that you can get Jared Wiley more involved than he's been so far on the offense this year. There's lots of different things that they can do. And I agree with you to an extent. They're going to use Justin Watson more. They're going to lean on him. They're going to lean on, probably Mecole Hardman a little bit more, although he didn't get that many snaps, even with Rice out. The big thing to me, and I think everybody wants to hate on Sky Moore, and I get it. He has struggled mightily in his Chiefs career, but they trust him to do certain things. And one of the things that they're trusting him to do is pass block, and he has done what he needs to. He's the reason that they were able to get that TD off to Worthy. One of the reasons they were able to get that TD off to Worthy. And the other thing that I think needs to be looked at here is Xavier Worthy, I think, is going to take a much bigger role in this offense over the next, I'd say, 3 to 4 weeks. I do think that they probably won't give him that much more for the New Orleans game, but I feel like by the game against San Francisco, I think he's going to have, a situation where they could target him 6-7 times, and they're going to start giving him some of the routes that Rashee Rice was running. Because to me, when you look at where Worthy is compared to where Rice was as a rookie, Worthy is further ahead than Rice was. And I'm not saying that they're the same player. Obviously, they're not. They do different things better. But I do think that Worthy has a ability to step in and take some of the load a little bit, at least on this passing offense.
Yeah, some as well. And like you said, a progression there over the next course of weeks, especially with the bye week early. That might be a blessing in disguise. It was something that I've complained about most of the offseason. Now allows new players, young players, whatever, to have that extra study time to get a little bit farther and get their breather early. That may actually help to pay off this season.
The other thing that they could possibly look at is changing the way they're going to use the running backs. They have Clyde coming back. From every report that we've heard, it sounds like Clyde is coming back this week. At least that's what the Chiefs think, is he will be back this week. We'll see if that ends up being the case. But he can catch the ball out of the backfield. Kareem Hunt can catch the ball out of the backfield. Samaje Perine can catch the ball out of the backfield. Can they start using more of a screen game? Can they start using some different routes with some of the running backs and doing that as opposed to just using them running the ball? I'm not saying they can't run the ball, but can they use them in the passing game and open different things up there? Because they have guys that have the ability to attack in that regard. And I do think that that's something that they could be successful with. And it changes the way that this offense looks. And people aren't going to necessarily be happy about it because they're not going to be taking as many deep shots if they do that. But it's a matter of just trying to get something that's going to work as long as you can get it to work. The guy that we didn't mention that we haven't talked about at all, whose role did Rashee Rice take when he came to Kansas City? Juju. I'm not saying Juju can step in and be Rice, but Juju had that role and was very successful in that role. Now, does he have the ability to do it physically? We'll see. But I do think that he's going to be a lot more involved in the coming weeks as well, because I do think that he stepped into – basically he's going to be stepping into Rice's role, and they're going to be able to game plan for it now more than they have been in the past, because they were expecting Rice to be the guy that could do everything.
Yeah. And it's going to take a village, right? Different aspects of this game are going to have to change, because you're right. I don't think the yak ability is there for Juju any longer. But the clutch, move the chains kind of stuff is always there for him, because I think he understands where to be, and that's key.
And the move the chains thing is the big thing. The yak thing was great. Don't get me wrong. Moving the ball, getting the big plays, that really helps. But if he can just be there and get the first downs and keep the chains moving, that's really the huge deal that I think could really help this offense out.
Yeah, it certainly will. And who knows? Don't know the prognosis on Rashee Rice. Hopefully we'll have an update for you tomorrow. Matt Derrick will be with us again. And if we get more information and we have a timeline established at that point, we'll try to see what that can be, because maybe you can piece things together a little bit better once you understand. So leave us your thoughts. Who do you think should step up? Who should they emphasize in the absence of Rashee Rice, who will definitely be out for the immediate future? Leave your comments down below on YouTube, like, sub, and hit the bell there. Check out another Locked On show next. Visit our sponsors. We appreciate you appreciating them, because that helps everybody. And hey, it may not be the best day today, but tomorrow the sun will shine, and we'll get to see a little bit more information on the wide receiver crew and hopefully Rashee Rice and his prognosis. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you're here tomorrow, as we will be. Have a good one, and we'll talk to you then.